Hey, how's it going? This is Luke Stokes. It's Tuesday, 3:30 on, August 18th. And I just want to do a quick little stream to talk about, to respond a little bit to some people who are asking me about my thoughts on Colin Talks Crypto's latest unvoting of EOS Nation. And there have been a couple people on Twitter saying, well, how come Luke is still voting for him? How come Brock is? What's the deal here? Don't they know what's going on? So I just want to do a quick stream. I've got other meetings coming up, but I figured I could do something quick and see how it goes. So let's get started here. Let me switch over to my other screen view. Oh, there we go. And so first off, I want to talk about, when it comes to DPoS, delegated proof of stake, I think it's really important to understand how incentivizing voting changes the process of DPoS. Like if you're paying someone to vote in a particular way or incentivizing that vote in any way, it can really break how DPoS is designed to work. And so I highly recommend reading this long post from Scott from NEX. I've referenced this post many times. It was a couple years ago. He also did a follow-up post, how it monopolizes proof of stake. And it talks about how it commoditizes the situation, how the inflation works in such a way that essentially, once you start doing this kind of kickback approach, it creates a monopoly, creates a centralization. There's a prisoner's dilemma. Now, there are people that disagree with me. I think, for example, when Colin started his proxy that was rewarding people to participate, basically incentivizing voting, I disagreed with it. I disagreed with it pretty strongly. But I have deep respect for Colin in that it's one of those, well, if everyone else is going to do it, let's at least do it in a way that's beneficial for the network. Meaning Colin doesn't change his votes based on, the pay. He's going to base his votes on what makes the most sense and what's best for the network. And I truly believe that he does that. I have great respect for him. So that's one piece of it. The other piece of it is, this is a video from a couple years ago that related to the EOS DAC airdrop, which also relates to voting incentivization. And there's a section in here that talks about DPoS, more on the Steam Hive situation, but also with EOS and EOS DAC as well. So there's some thoughts in here. It's about a 20-minute video if you want to go through that. Some more thoughts about how voter incentivization impacts this. So the reason this matters is when exchanges are voting, and if you're not familiar, I guess, with what I'm talking about, I guess I should pull that up here. There's a larger discussion about, Colin Talks Crypto talked about, and did a great video just describing his stance. This video and another video, the EOS Proxy Talk video, describing his stance for why he unvoted EOS Nation. He agrees with me in that EOS Nation is one of the very best block producers in EOS Mainnet. They're phenomenal. Their team is incredible. Their leadership is fantastic. Their communication is amazing. Their technical contributions are in many ways unparalleled. Whether you're in the East or the West, they are doing a phenomenal job. And in my opinion, they always have. They've always been great communicators to bring the community together. And so he explained why he unvoted them. And it relates to this idea that centralized exchanges can vote with user tokens without their consent. And I fully agree with the stance that Colin's taking, that this is a dangerous thing. This is not a healthy thing. This is what was used to attack the Steam network, for example, and cause the community to then fork off and create the Hive community, because the blockchain exchanges were able to be fooled by Justin Sun to go vote in a way that benefited Justin and not the network. And this reminds me of, again, cryptocurrency rule number 1. This is from 2018. If you don't control the private keys, you don't know the cryptocurrency. Someone else does, and you're hoping they're going to give it back to you later. Holding cryptocurrency on centralized exchanges defeats the purpose of decentralized programmable money. Now, saying that, I still have deep respect for exchanges. I understand the role that they play in the ecosystem. Without liquidity, without the ability to transfer these tokens and have a great trusted marketplace, some even turn to exchanges for custodial services, saying they've got better infrastructure than an individual might have, just with their own resources. So I respect exchanges. I've grown to change my stance in some way in terms of thinking that they're just these, money-grubbing people out there to screw the industry. I don't believe that anymore. I've worked with them on some level with the FIO protocol and in other situations as well, and I realize this, in a lot of cases, these are very hardworking, important members of the community. And so, when I think about back my role as a proxy, this is back in 2018, I set up one of the very first proxies because I really just kind of wanted to learn how it works. And I set this up thinking, I have a stance on my philosophy. I want to create a world we all want to live in, and I'm going to be open and transparent about my thinking, and quickly became one of the top proxies early on. Now, it's since dropped because I have not participated in what I would consider voting incentivization. I've not worked to pay anyone based on or get any rewards from BPs or anything like that. Because again, I've explained, I think that's not a good plan for DPoS long term. Others disagree with me, and that's fine. And now I'm not very much relevant. I think I'm like in the 200s or something as far as proxy goes. And that's fine. I have plenty of other things that I'm focusing on at the moment. But I do have people kind of still thinking about me and saying, hey, why is this person, why isn't this person responding to these ideas? Why are they still voting for EOS Nation? And I want to explain, I will continue to vote for EOS Nation because, again, I think they're one of the very best participants in the EOS Mainnet. Now, as far as their participation with exchanges, again, I do agree with Colin, and I think it would be best if all exchanges give their users a voting portal so they could actually vote exactly as those token holders want to. And if they don't do that, at least give consent to say, hey, we are going to vote with your tokens. If you're okay with that, give this consent. If you're not, we will move your tokens to a separate account where they're not participating in voting. Ideally, I would like exchanges to not vote at all, unless, again, they can provide an interface for their users to vote directly. But again, not your keys, not your tokens. If you transfer tokens to a centralized exchange, they're not technically yours anymore, And so don't do that. The narrative should, in my opinion, shouldn't be about, how it's so terrible that exchanges are voting. It should be, it's so terrible that cryptocurrency holders don't want to own their cryptocurrency. Why are they holding all their tokens on an exchange when an exchange is for exchanging? You get in, you make your trade, you get out, right? So that's, I think, the larger narrative. And if we want to have more secure, distributed, decentralized DPoS networks, then we want to have groups of people that aren't storing all their tokens in one centralized place, that has an overabundance of governance, too many tokens in one place where one person can make a decision that can impact the network, as we saw with Steam, and is potentially a threat with EOS. If these exchanges have all the power, it's a concern. Now, what I also want to address is that, when it comes to FIO, so, I'm the managing director of the Foundation for Inter-Wallet Operability, and we took a little bit of a different stance here on DPoS. And this is one of the reasons I wanted to do this video and pack my personal perspective on this a little bit. Now, I'm not speaking for the board in this case, I'm just my personal opinion, but it's the idea that FIO was designed as an industry consortia. So it is also delegated proof of stake. It is also kind of a version of EOS.io, although heavily modified. And we took the approach that essentially, if you are going to be a participant in the FIO network, then we want you to participate in governance as well. So that means the wallets, the exchanges, anyone who integrates the FIO protocol, they have a direct incentive to make sure the network runs at high efficiency because they've integrated it into their products and services that make their money. So ultimately, we took a slightly different approach. We're saying, I'm fine with the wallets and exchanges and all the major players in the space being the block producers. We've added a feature where by default, even if you're a non-custodial wallet, all the tokens held in your account, you get to be, by default, a proxy to vote those tokens and that token weight. That is in the design of the protocol. And there's a reason for that, because I think that those who provide the best service in the cryptocurrency industry should have the most influence on how the FIO protocol, which is working to make all cryptocurrency easier to use, has the most say in the governance of that protocol. The FIP process, the FIO improvement proposals, the voting for block producers, everything that goes into even the voting for and giving a straw poll for who the future board will be for the Foundation for Inter-Wallet Operability. I want the token holders to be involved, and I want those service providers to be involved in a very significant way. So that's why we designed it that way, because I want to give the independent non-custodial wallets and DEXs and exchanges to have the same influence as the centralized custodian wallets and exchanges that are holding user funds. I think as long as they're integrating the protocol, they have a direct incentive for it to function at the highest possible level. So I'm okay with them participating in the governance at that level. So I'm just giving that as a contrast to say it's not always completely bad to have the most influential and most important participants in a network also involved in the governance in a significant way, because it's in their best interest. More so with FIO, because they've integrated the protocol, or they're going to, that's the hope that all these exchanges and wallets, everybody in the whole ecosystem will want to help us make cryptocurrency easier to use. So they're going to integrate it directly in their protocol. They definitely should have skin in the game as far as the governance. Now with EOS Mainnet, I understand there's concerns about collusion, there's concerns about sock puppets and voting rings and things of this nature. And I commend the different BPs that exposed a lot of this, both in the East and the West early on when it was being hidden and it wasn't being talked about openly. And I appreciate that it is being talked about more openly and it is more clear. And these things are going on, and we have to decide as a community and as an industry if we agree with it or not. Do we agree with these early posts that Scott put out and others have talked about? Or do we think it's not that big a deal and it's okay to incentivize voting? Are we okay with proxies that incentivize voting? Are we okay with exchanges that purchase votes? These are things that have to be, I think, are even more important than just an exchange, voting with user tokens. Because I think if you deposit your tokens on an exchange that's voting on the network, then you're by your deposit consenting to that process. Sure, it would be great if they actually signed a contract as well and, explicitly gave their consent. But if it's happening, it's pretty clear the intention of what's going to go on. So I'm not as concerned as Colin as far as EOS Nation doing this. Again, I think they are very wise in their leadership there, and they've always kind of found the balance to do what's best for the network. And I think bringing the East and the West together, bringing all the different exchanges together, has been really important for EOS. So that's my response. I will continue to vote for them because I think they're technically excellent, they're incredible communicators, and they're super valuable for EOS Mainnet. And at the same time, I respect and appreciate Colin's stance. I think he's doing what he believes is correct. And I love that he's taking a moral stance. I think that's incredibly important, an ethical stance on what is right and what isn't. And whether or not one token, one vote is a solution, as Dan Larimer and others suggest, or whether it will just readjust and have the same thing happening in a different way, whether we need a completely new solution, like the one that, the monkey potato solution, or the one that Block One and Dan Larimer came out with. That there are multiple different approaches to continuing to improve the governance on EOS Mainnet. But one thing I will say is the network is running strong. The network is running fast. CPU usage is going down. All in all, the network is solid. And that is something I think we could all celebrate and appreciate. So that's my response. Hopefully that means something to somebody. Otherwise, it was a waste of my time. Hope you're having a great day, and I'll talk to you later. Hey, girl. How you doing? And I'll talk to you later.